Hey, Zaka family. Zaka is launching an exclusive membership platform to provide you with career development workshops, coaching, community, and so much more. Go to ZakaConnect.com and sign up to receive information on how to access early registration and perks. Hello, everybody. This is Paul Herman, the Prince of Motivation and host of Zaka Presents My Journey. We're creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you get inspired and motivated from different leaders from our community. Today, our guest is Raquel Serrato, who is National Sports Event Marketing Manager at Redbull North America. Raquel, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
The pleasure is all ours. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing a lot about this Red Bull. I know Red Bull has a very entertaining type of company. You guys are involved in a lot of things. So I would definitely want to hear about that. But before we get into Red Bull and what you do over there, could you just let the listeners know about your cultural background and where you're from?
Oof, where I'm from, I feel like I don't know if a lot of people can relate, but that question is sometimes the dreaded question, especially if you're coming from like an immigrant background or mixed cultures. But sure. So technically, I was
Okay,
born in Spain.
this sounds good already.
I know I get this question asked all the time, and it's one of the ones where I'm like, damn, do I give them the real answer? They're going to stick around for the story, or people try to already categorize you with that question. So, yeah. So I was born in Spain, in Madrid. My mom's side of the family is from Spain. My dad's side of the family is from Colombia. However, I grew up in North Florida, which is like damn near southern Georgia. Nothing to do with Miami, even though I did live there, but it's very much southern. So yeah, just growing up and navigating all different types of cultures, whether that's the southern vibe or even, like, yes, I'm Hispanic, but the Spanish culture and the Colombian culture are completely different, and one is European and one is Latin American. So yeah, I'm a mix of all these things.
Could you help us out and let us know a little bit more about the culture? Like you said, there's a big difference. Like, what is that main difference for you?
Well, first off, the type of Spanish, like, yeah, we all speak Spanish, but, Spanish is different in Spain than in Colombia, for example. And, it's still a kingdom. And versus like Latin America, I think is more, I don't know how to describe it. I guess
Is the culture more alive in one or the other? Is the cuisines, the foods a little bit different?
Cuisine completely different. I think, in my opinion, I think Latin American cultures are a bit more lively. In my opinion, I think there's, Latin America's that mixing pot of European, the natives that were there, and even African roots. Even though I spent most of my time in Spain and I went to college in Spain, I was born in Spain, and I wasn't able to go to Colombia until I was like older. I always gravitated towards Colombia, just like, music and food, and I don't know, it's a different type of, I guess, joy.
Different type of lifestyle out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Got you.
Yeah. Different type of demeanor.
And where do you live now?
Now I live in Los Angeles.
Okay. Oh, wow. You moved around.
That's not even half of it.
You moved around, like that's a couple places right there, just in this time frame. But okay, well, you're in Los Angeles, and that's where you're staying at the present moment until you probably travel out again, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. And when it comes to your childhood, like what influenced you or inspired you to be the person that you are today?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I think actually being a part of all those different types of cultures, I think now that I'm older, for sure, like when I was younger, and in North Florida at the time, there wasn't that many Hispanic people. The majority were like Puerto Ricans or Cubans. And all these mixes of cultures that you're hearing really were like an identity crisis growing up. But I think now that I'm older and I'm able to look back, that really was like, it's becoming my superpower because I'm able to kind of navigate and relate to a lot of different people that don't necessarily look or talk like me. Um,
Mm,
so yeah, I see it as a superpower now.
okay. And now, when you were in school, where did you go to school mainly? Like when you were growing up, was it in Spain
Um,
or a mixture?
I came to the States in preschool. So most of my education was in northern Florida, specifically Gainesville, Florida, home of the Florida
Mhm.
Gators.
Okay,
But then
shots
I
to the
went to
Gators.
college in Spain. Yeah.
Now, when you were coming up in school, right? Did you study something? Was it something that interests you when you were younger?
Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to do something in sports. I wasn't too sure what or how to get there, but even like learning Spanish, I learned reading Spanish, reading the Spanish sports newspapers. And I learned like I took Italian in high school and I got better at that reading the Italian sports newspapers. So I always knew I wanted to go to sports. I just didn't know exactly what it was. And actually, when I first started college, I wanted to be a physical therapist, and I was thinking, maybe that was my way to sports is like, being a part of the team, being on the field. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where I started. Definitely
Hmm.
not where I ended.
Did you play any sports growing up?
Yeah, so I competitively swam for a very long time, and then I played volleyball in high school. So, but that, high school is kind of like the time where you either decide you're going to fully do this and try to go to college for it or drop
Yeah,
it. So,
true, true.
yeah,
That's like that middle ground when you have a guy,
yeah.
okay, am I
Decision
tall enough?
time.
Am I fast enough?
Facts.
These people in college look a little bigger than me, so I had to do the same thing. Now, when it came to your career, like when you graduated college, what was like the first lesson you learned at the first job?
Man, my first corporate job out of college.
Yeah. Like what was that experience like for you? And what did you
You
learn from
know
that?
what? So I had, I've always had very good managers that have always, like, each of them have contributed to my career in different ways. And in that first job, I'll never forget. Um, my manager then really gave me, I guess, like skills to uh, things that I still use to this day, like how to use your email and make sure you're just like always efficient. But there was another manager there, and he gave me a piece of advice that I will never forget. I don't know how he knew this, but and he was also Hispanic. His name is Kent, and he sat me down one day. He was like, you're gonna get the opportunity to be in a lot of rooms where you're the only female, and you're probably have a seat at that table. So, when you speak, make it count. And that I carry that to this day. Um, I am in a lot of rooms like that, and whenever I have whenever I have something to say, I really um, kind of formulate it and make sure that it's contributing to the conversation. And I guess when you think about it, it's a little bit messed up what he was saying because kind of saying like well, first off, there's not a lot of females. There's not a lot of females around, and the females that are around, a lot of times maybe get not heard or drowned out or whatever.
Mm,
Um, you
yeah,
know, but
I
it's
got you.
true. I in a lot of these meetings, I'm very much observing and um, formulating what I want to say because once I do speak, I want people to hear me. Like, oh snap, she said something.
She's educated. She's smart. She knows what she's talking
Yeah,
about. Those are things that anybody would want to have in those types of
right.
conversations. And I think that's one of the biggest things in any affiliation, any job, corporation, is really just making sure you are heard. And which we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But when you
Mhm.
when you left out of college, like what was like some things that you realized that college didn't prepare you for when you were
Oh
going
my
into the
god.
corporate? I know everyone's like, oh, college, not downgrading the college thing, right? College is obviously a great place to kind of like get that information and learn more
Yeah.
about yourself, which in turn could help you out in corporate America or whatever job you pursue. But what was some things that you didn't gain from that college experience?
I guess they don't really teach you how much of your job is based on the relationships you're able to make, keep, and cultivate. Like, I think, especially the sports world, very much operates on trust and relationships and picking up the phone. Um, and I don't think they really talk about that in college, like how I guess like how far that can go. And I think that most of the job, like most of my job, I'm able to do because of those relationships.
Mhm. And if
Yeah.
they do speak on it, it's probably like in a communications class, right? But it's just that one communications class, and then go back to finance and accounting. But they're forgetting that there's a glue between all of that.
Hmm.
Once you get
Exactly.
into the environment, you need to stay in the environment, and that comes through conversations, that comes through relationships, of connecting with people. That
Exactly.
organic stuff that sometimes you just might not even understand that's like probably like the biggest thing to kind of move up in that ladder.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe maybe it takes a little bit of investing a little like time that you may have not wanted to put into it, but it will
Mhm.
go a long way. But
True.
yeah, things you find out as you do get into the corporate world.
Yeah, it does that corporate life. You find out after you're like, oh my gosh, I should have. But
This
now,
wasn't in the book. Yeah.
that's right. You started your professional career in marketing. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the campaigns that you worked on and what you feel like you're very proud of?
Oh, I started I guess the first job I had, like in my first job or past jobs, not Red
Well,
Bull.
past jobs. I mean, you've been touching on marketing, a good amount of
Hmm.
times. So like, was there like a campaign that really stuck with you, and you were like, you know what, this one right here, I still remember it.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So before, I guess the second company I worked at was Subway Latin America. And so that was based in Miami. My territory was the Caribbean. And I got to work on a lot of cool projects that maybe the rest of the Latin America team wasn't able to work on. And we had a lot of Olympic athletes. Um, so we got to work a lot with like the Jamaican track team. That was really cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think the most fun campaigns I worked on were in Puerto Rico, because we also had like, since it's technically the US, we had US resources. And I remember we had this one campaign, um, because I forget which chain. I want to say McDonald's or Burger King was coming at us, and we were able to make,
Like in a good way
um,
or a bad way?
in a bad way.
Oh,
They kind of
okay,
called us
okay.
out about, we had a special deal in that market, as far as like the price point of a meal, and they like it was like a back and forth of them saying like, no, our campaign, our food is cheaper, and then we like fired back, so that was kind of fun.
Mm. Shots fired. Shots fired. Here we go. Corporate America. This what goes on, guys. Come on, you got to get it. Get in. I mean, and you're talking about a big market, so I know it does get very competitive, and I want to kind of bring it back to what we were kind of just speaking about a little bit earlier, where you talked about like being heard. That's like a big thing for you,
Hmm.
right? Now, being Latina, working in a corporate environment where there's a lot of ideas being shared, especially when it comes to
Hmm.
marketing. Things are being created right on the spot. People are passing ideas around. How do you make sure your voice is actually heard?
I guess it's not. Well, I guess one thing you should know about me is I'm a fire sign, so making my opinion heard is like nothing I struggle with. So I
Let's
just
get
make
it.
sure I make sure to kind of check people, like even in campaigns, those visuals, like uh just being confident enough to call out when you feel like you're not seen in a campaign, or like, why is that this way? I think it's not so much if I say something, I really try to think about how I say it.
Hmm.
And I think the best way I found to do that is to just ask the questions. And 9 times out of 10, people will realize what I mean by answering that question, like kind of revealing it to themselves. So that's how I kind of navigate being heard and not coming off like, I don't know, confrontational. Yeah.
Because that could, that is a thing right there. When people are very confident in what they want to say, sometimes it could come across like very confrontational. Like, oh my gosh, But at the same time, it's just like, look, I got a point. I really want to make it be heard. So, I know it's a very hard thing, especially when you're in a corporate environment where you have to trust the people around you to not, take offense to it, or,
Right. And you
it's like,
never know, like, if someone's taking their work really personal, you don't want to, like, tear it apart. And again, that kind of goes back to, like, not burning any bridges with the relationships you do have, because you do have to work with these people every day.
Oh, and that's, yeah, you got to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you did mention about the whole Subway thing. I want to bring it back to that. Now, Subway is another big company. Before we dive into Red Bull and talk about what you do over there, but at Subway, like, what was one of the biggest lessons you learned while you were there?
I think maybe that was the first time I really learned how to cultivate relationships, because being that my territory was the Caribbean and I lived in Miami, I rarely saw these people face to face. And I think that actually um, being able to relate to people of different cultures started to shine there. Um, because it's like you're trying to cultivate these relationships without ever seeing them, um, and kind of gain someone's trust without ever seeing them. So I think that's kind of like where I really started to see how important it is to, pick up the phone and I don't even remember people's birthdays, or like try to
Or
relate to
kids'
their culture.
birthdays or anniversaries, little small things like that make a
Yeah.
difference.
And especially in Subway, like every Caribbean island is so different. People tend to bunch them together, but like Puerto Rico's culture has nothing to do with Trinidad or Jamaica, etc. So like um letting them, educate you about their culture before I don't know,
Dive
launch a
in and try to,
campaign.
yeah,
Yeah.
you had to immerse yourself in that, kind of stuff. It's, a lot of the bigger corporations might think, well, we know what we're doing, but you're obviously,
Right.
you have to sell it to a certain group of people, right? A certain market, a
Mm-hmm.
demographic. So immersing yourself in the culture, seeing the community, where people love, what are people looking to do, what it excites them, then it makes a difference in that campaign. And then it becomes more organic at that point in time when you're making that campaign versus like, okay, look, this is the most cookie cutter way of doing it. Let's just put this and this together, and let's put it in Puerto Rico and Jamaica. But the
Yeah.
campaign's got to be different, and it's got to hit differently. That, like you said, the culture, like we were just talking about when we first started off, you're saying that like the difference between the two cultures growing up was like one of them was a little bit more alive in your expertise.
Right.
So
And
that plays a part.
exactly. And it's actually, now that I'm thinking, you asked me about like, how do I make sure I'm heard? I think because I know that's like important when I do work with other markets, I'm making sure that they're heard in this campaign, and I'm not like perceiving them in a certain way or something and it doesn't make sense that's like culturally relevant to them or even offensive. So I think
And people,
maybe
yeah, that's
growing up
nice.
that way, I am extra sensitive to that.
hmm And I think that's a really good thing. Like, you're helping other people who feel like they're not heard be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
now your title now at Red Bull, it's a definitely a large one. Okay, we're gonna go back over that, right? National Sports Event Marketing Manager at Red Bull North America. That's a lot
Mm-hmm.
right there. Talk to us. Let us know, what does this role consist of?
Um, okay, I think maybe there's like three parts to it.
Okay.
So the way Redbull is set up is that we have teams in every region who are activating like things that you see whenever you go to your local 7-Eleven is like a team that most likely lives in that area. So a big part of my job is supporting the people that are actually putting on those events, making sure they look and feel like Redbull events. And I guess then there's a second part to that where like if there's an event that's happening in like the same event happening in multiple markets, that now kind of falls into a national series. So those ones I'm directly responsible for, like the marketing of it, the messaging of it, making sure that if you go to that event in, I don't know, Detroit, it looks and feels the same way as I don't know, if you go to LA, obviously wanting the local flavor again to be prevalent in those markets, but for the most part, it's like the same experience. And then the third part is kind of so our headquarters is in Austria, and just making sure that we're kind of trickling down the strategy or any direction that comes from Austria.
And that's what you said. That's where home base is at.
For Redbull, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's something new. I learn something new every time. Okay, let's go. Now, in your career, right? I know we talked about it just being a Latina. You said we talked about your voice being heard, but could you speak a little bit more about like diversity within like a boardroom? Like, what are you seeing? I know that when you mentioned about Kent, the young man who had spoken to you and said that you are going to be in that room one day, right? How is it for you now?
I think we're definitely still lacking, and it's not particular to this brand. I think in the sports world, 9 times out of 10, the room is pretty white male. So I don't know. I think also I kind of like disruption. So me showing up in that room doesn't. I'm not going to say it doesn't intimidate me, but there's some weird joy that I get out of it to know that I'm something new.
That's
it
that
really
fire
is.
sign. You're going to walk right in the room like, hey, boom, I'm here. Kick open the door.
I have a sticker on my laptop that just says Latinas, like in big red, like the Supreme font. And I'm just like, hi, I'm here.
And I'm not going anywhere. Right. And you deserve that spot. You've worked very hard to receive that title, and to, you're not in just like an entry level position. You're in a leadership role, and that is because other people believe in your work ethic. They believe in the character that you have, and like the way you carry yourself. It fits. It aligns with what the company is looking for, whether you're Black, white, Spanish, Asian. The alignment that you have, and that's why you're there. But like you said, you walk into the boardroom, first off, you might be the only female in the room, and you might be the only Latina in the room. And it's like you're representing yourself, you're representing your culture, and you're obviously representing the company, Red Bull and everything like that. So you're saying that do you feel like there is some more change? You are seeing more of that in people coming up, more of diverse backgrounds in the boardrooms? Do you feel like it's making a change?
I think that there's change starting to happen. Even on my team, we have gone up exponentially in the amount of women on our team, and it makes me so happy. And if I can help change that in any way, I'm more than happy to.
Right. Look, so they always say, one of the sayings that I've learned over the years was, you're not an artist unless you give back. Right. And in this world of today, like, you have to contribute in some type of way. So you're doing a wonderful job of being in a leadership position and saying, you know what, I'm going to go back and grab more people to come up to the top with me, which is important. Sometimes people could go to the top and be like, look, I'm fine where I am. I made it here by myself, and I'll be here by myself. But it's definitely, it speaks, to who you are, the character you are.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, I will say that most of the people that have opened doors for me are those white males. So I can't say like it's been me on my own, but going back to, cultivating those relationships, they're really important. And if this person can open the door for me, sweet. We need our allies, because I know I will turn around and open the door for people that look more like me or speak more like me,
Now, what has been like the biggest obstacle in your career that you had to handle, and how'd you like handle it?
Um, what comes to mind is a personal obstacle. I don't know if that's what you're asking.
And anything. I mean, you're in a leadership position. I mean, I could imagine the amount of obstacles you face in a day. So like, what's been like one of the biggest ones you had to kind of face, and it's kind of like, how did you work through it?
You know what? I think yes, as for sure, I'm like I guess being more successful, but we still come from these communities, like I still have family in Spain and Colombia, and very close ties to those communities. And so it's not because I became more successful that I'm like removed from the things that happen there. So I guess I'm saying balance. So balance has been really hard for me. And I guess, you're getting news from things that are happening to people back home, and you still have to show up to those boardrooms. And I know that I can't control the constant chaos that is happening either back home or when it comes to the work, but I have had to learn how to fill up my cup first. And I think that is the the main obstacle, is
Mm.
to prioritize myself, um, make sure I'm taking care of myself first before I take care of any other people, whether it comes to my personal life or it comes to the work. So that's something I'm still learning.
Mm.
But my way of thinking, because for me, by default, I'm a workaholic. So the work is not the challenging part for me in a way.
It's
It's
taking
like,
care of yourself.
exactly, because
Mm.
once I do that, actually the work is better. And that is something like I have a tattoo to remind me to stay balanced. Like, yeah.
Let's go. Come on. Let's go. Yeah, no. You're hitting something that's very important. A lot of the guests on our show have said something that's very important in their life is self time, like having self care.
Yeah.
Being able to meditate. Being able to like sit at home and just be present with their family. Their kids. It's
Mhm.
it's not like, because especially when you're at that higher position, right? You're constantly on the go. You're constantly in a meeting. There is some type of emails or some calls, conferences. You're constantly on the go. So having a
Yes.
moment in time to be like, you know what, everything paused. I just got to my hotel room before we have our meeting. Give me my time. I think
Yes.
it's important to kind of like check out for a few, because like you said, when you come back, it's not the work, but the work feels a lot better, right? When you just
Oh my gosh. This
mm,
is something I've had to deprogram, and I think a lot of uh, kids whose parents are immigrants uh, really struggle with, because, the metric for success, I think, when it comes to our parents, they were grinding,
hmm
Both of my parents came from their countries here. They both had their own businesses, and that's just how they had to like provide, was like material things. And so we grew up under their mindset of like,
that's it.
work
That's the
is
only
number
way.
one.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's a
And
it's a
now,
hard transition,
hmm,
especially when your
yes.
your parents are like, no, that's the only way to do it, and you're like, no, it's not. It's 2023. We can change it up. And like, no,
Dude,
no, no. This is how we
it,
did it back then.
oh my gosh. If I got caught just sitting on the couch, my parents would be like, what are you doing? Get up. There's always something to do.
There's
Clean.
no.
To this day, I feel guilty when I'm like
Uh,
taking rest.
I'm not gonna lie. Like when my family members come around too, I'll be doing the same thing. I'm like, My father's here. I got to get up. I got to get up. It's Saturday morning. You waking up. You're like, oh, it's my day off. Mind you, you done traveled, did a lot of work
Yes.
during the week, but then you still get up because you're like, wait, hold up. They're up, and I should be up now too. You feel obligated, but it's because how much we have a love and appreciation for our parents for giving us that type
Hmm.
of mindset at an earlier point in our career in our lives. That was like our first bosses, if that was the case.
Oh my gosh, I feel that too. And now I'm
That's
like, I really remind myself to give myself grace. Like, let me just give myself grace. It's okay that I'm like not working at 100% capacity. I need to give myself grace to, rest a little bit so I can come back stronger. But getting your parents' voice out of your head, oof, that's been a struggle.
Oh man. Now, what does it mean being a Latina in a leadership position?
You know what? I am realizing more and more that it's like, as I guess, climb the corporate ladder or get more visibility, it really becomes less about the work, and like I am more so helping. It's almost like helping people be seen in a way.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I've been told like, "Oh, you're the change," or like people look up to me now. It becomes less about like the day-to-day work and more so about visibility and representation, and that's where I'm making an impact. And I will say like that part of it is more fulfilling to me than like the actual work.
Hmm.
So if I can help somebody who is, even male minorities, like, oh, there's someone there that, speaks how I speak, listens to reggaeton like I listen to reggaeton.
Come on
Um,
now, let's get into that. That's a whole
it's
conversation right there. The reggaeton and the tembo. We go.
oh
Come on, girl, I'm
yeah.
with you. I'm with you. Don't put that music on now. No,
But
but
you see,
it's important.
yeah,
It's important that you. The thing is that think about what you're saying. Like you've reached a level, such a high level, and there's so much more in your career that you have an incline on, right? But you're still saying like the biggest goal for me now is to help other people. Like that's
mm-hmm,
besides the people that you're already servicing, right? You're already in a servicing profession, right? Where you're making
yeah,
campaigns to help service a community and get them going. But you're like, no, I want to help more people, right? That's just like you're taking on a bigger bag, a bigger burden, but you love it and you enjoy it. So I commend you for doing that. And that's why one of my last questions to you was just gonna say to you, what is this career goal? Like what's your long-term career goal?
oh my gosh, I'm gonna run this whole department.
Let's get it. Come on right now. Speak it into existence right now. You heard it
Uh-huh.
here first, Zaka. You heard it here first, right? That is
There's
right.
nowhere to go but up. What do you
Mm.
mean?
We are inclining this evening. Okay, come on. Come on, preach, girl. That's right. It's important
Yeah,
to know your worth and know how good you really are. If you feel that you are that leader, if you feel that you are strong enough to lead and to guide and to put the best foot forward when it comes to the company, then that is your position. That's your job. Go for it.
yeah. I think for me, my North Star is just to do it and in a way that is authentic to me, whether it's the way I dress, the way I speak, where I come from, who I'm representing. I know that the moment I walk into a room and like let someone make me feel a way, if that imposter syndrome's creeping in or I start feeling intimidated,
Mhm.
I know that I'm off. Like I'm rearing like off my purpose. I just have to make sure that I'm doing things the way that I would do it and the way that is most authentic to me and where I come from.
Well, you definitely are doing it, and I can only just say congratulations. And I'm looking forward to seeing you reach that level in your career where you're able to say, look, I've given back even more, and I'm at this top position right now where I'm running the whole thing. So shout out to you for that.
Thank
Any
you.
I was gonna say any last words for our audience before we conclude on our interview today.
I think is that like I think that in a lot of these spaces and rooms we walk into, you might feel like you shouldn't speak up, or maybe I sound a certain way, or maybe I'll offend someone. I think what's important is that you're authentically yourself. Don't try to be like anybody else. I think everyone has their own gifts to offer. And as long as you're doing it in a way that feels like yourself, I think you're on the right track.
Mm. Well, Raquel, I appreciate you for dropping some gems and just giving us a whole bunch of wonderful things to take away from this interview. You know, I want to let the listeners know, if you want to hear more inspirational stories like Raquel, please check us out on ZakaConnect.com, or follow our social at Zaka Connect, and follow our feed, Zaka, wherever you listen to your podcasts.